Hi there, welcome to the Upcycle Design Lab. If this is your first time here, I'm so happy to have you join me, and if you've been here before, welcome back. My name's Cindy and I craft using recycled and repurposed materials to give you ideas on ways to make and create more economically and ecologically. Now normally I do crafting tutorials on a specific project, but today it's going to be a little bit more like a classroom, I guess, because there are some things that I've learned from experience and also just from reading about the subject that I want to share with you today about using a microwave kiln. I bought a microwave kiln several years ago just because I had never fused glass, and I still consider myself to be very much of a novice at this, but I have learned a few things along the way. And years ago I did several videos on different fused glass projects, and I kind of just even made up my own terms, and I was just having fun playing with my new toy. But recently I've been doing some research and I've learned some actual terminology, and so I wanted to take a minute to share some of the things that I've learned through reading and through my own experience. If you have never fused glass, some of these terms you may not have heard before, but they are terms that you'll come across if you do start fusing glass. And there is a ton to learn about it, so this is just a very, very cursory bit of information because there are people with years of experience out there who have fused a lot of really big things in large kilns with a lot more technical experience than I have, but also than I think you need to actually get started. So the reason I want to make this video is to encourage you to just give it a try if you're curious about it, and to not let the terminology and some of the safety concerns overwhelm you. So you can look into it and decide what you feel comfortable with, but I thought I would cover a few of the questions that have come up over the years since I've made these first videos. So there are, of course, some safety concerns. A lot of them seem pretty obvious to me, but I will mention them anyway. First of all, obviously you're working with glass, and so you do need to use eye protection and gloves because you are going to have sharp objects, and sometimes when you're cutting the glass you can have shards fly off in different directions, so that is a safety concern. Another thing is that obviously when you're melting glass, the glass is very hot and the kiln that you're using gets very hot, so the heat resistant gloves are a must. And depending on what products you're using, you might have some concerns about those as well. The only other thing I really use is the kiln paper. It's made of some sort of ceramic material, so it can irritate your eyes. There's dust that, it doesn't seem dusty, but they caution you against breathing in that dust, so you might want to wear a mask and certainly wash your hands after you handle the kiln paper or have a pair of gloves that you work with. So a little bit about the microwave kiln, because that's the only one I really know anything about. It's very simple. It's just two pieces. There's a base and a top, and the inner base is where your working surface is, and the kiln that I have is very small. There are at least two sizes of microwave kilns that you can purchase, but obviously you're going to be working on a pretty small project. These are not for big projects. So another concern that has come up in some of the comments that I've gotten is that you don't necessarily want to have your microwave kiln in your kitchen microwave. So my particular instructions for the kiln that I have just say to wipe out, and clean the microwave once you are finished using the kiln. So if you're uncomfortable with that, you can certainly purchase a inexpensive microwave and have a dedicated microwave for your microwave kiln. Excuse me. I still think it's one of the most economical ways to go, even if you did purchase a separate microwave for your kiln, if you're just getting started. But like I said, mine just says to clean out the microwave once you're done. So that brings us to the terminology portion of this video, and there are just a few terms that I want to bring to your attention. There's, like I said, tons you can learn about fusing glass, and there are people with years of experience that are very accomplished in working with glass, But these are just a couple of things that you will come across if you are just beginning to learn how to fuse glass. The first term is COE, which is coefficient of expansion. And there are a lot of people out there that are going to talk about how you have to fuse glasses with the same COE. I know I'm going to say CEO at least once in this video. But the coefficient of expansion is usually, I've seen like 90, 96. I don't know what the total range is, but there are people out there that say you cannot fuse glass unless they have the same coefficient of expansion. There are also people out there that say that that is not the only measure of whether your glass is compatible to fuse. So my experience has been that I don't know what the coefficient of the glass I'm fusing even is because I've been using recycled bottle glass. And I've used the kiln almost 200 times now, and I've never fused anything that I knew the coefficient of expansion because I'm using recycled glass. So to be completely forward, my instructions say not to fuse things that I don't know the coefficient of expansion on. So if you're concerned about that, you can certainly use glass that you purchase that the manufacturer tells you what the coefficient of expansion is. But since you're here, you probably know the name of my channel is Upcycle Design Lab. So I do like to work with recycled materials, and so I have chosen to fuse glass bottles that I don't know the coefficient of expansion on, and so far I have not had any problems with it. You might hear another term that is called viscosity, and glass has a viscosity apparently, and they're not all the same. So the way I understand it, some glass becomes slightly more fluid than other glass, and if those are not the same, then that can affect how compatible your glass is as well. I've read that if the viscosity offsets the coefficient of expansion, that sometimes those can balance each other out, and that will make your glass compatible even though they have different coefficients of expansion. The last term is called annealing, and if you have a microwave kiln, there's really nothing you can do about the annealing because it has to do with the stages and the amount of cooling that your project gets. So if I understand this correctly, higher end kilns, you can have a schedule of how you cool down your projects. But in the microwave kiln, you're just going to remove the kiln from the oven and let it cool off for an hour or 45 minutes until the glass is cool. There's really nothing you can do about controlling the annealing process with a microwave kiln. So why do you need to care about these terms? Well, the reason is that when you're fusing glass, it goes through a process of melting and cooling off, and that whole process is stressful to the glass. So depending on the way that you're combining the glasses and the coefficients and their viscosity, the way that they cool off, which is part of the annealing process, can cause more stress. And if there's too much stress, then your projects may crack. Now, I think, at least in my experience, that this is much less of a concern with a small little piece of glass than it is with a bigger piece of glass. So again, my suggestion or recommendation is to just give it a try, see what happens. There is no guarantee that your glass will never break or never crack, but you can tell pretty quickly whether your glass is fused and whether you like what is coming out of the process. One other thing that you will find with the microwave kiln, and I suspect higher end kilns, is that it's recommended that you keep notes on your process. And so at first I was a little daunted by that, but mostly you just want to keep track of what you were fusing, how long it took to fuse, and what your results were. So it's a pretty simple process, and it's also been something that's helped me to understand and learn from. So if you've been thinking about learning to fuse glass, but you found the process just a little bit intimidating, I hope that this video will encourage you just to be experimental, give it a try, decide what you're comfortable with. If you don't want to fuse glass that you don't know the COE of, did I say that right? Or if you really want to make sure you have your own dedicated microwave, whatever those things are, decide what you're comfortable with, and I would encourage you to give it a try. Like I said, I'm a complete novice, but if you have some questions that you think I might be able to answer, I will be happy to address those in the comment section of this video. And I will link to some of my project videos as well. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video, and I hope you'll consider subscribing, and also check that bell icon so you'll get notified when I upload new videos. And I hope to see you back here soon in the lab.